Investors are feeling the frustration within this market. Many first-time home buyers trying to purchase a property to live in feel the need to overbid, and because of the competition, could be paying actually more than the property is worth. This leaves investors in a unique situation because many of the properties do not pencil out once they're subject to overbid. This is where we have to ask ourselves, where is this market headed? What is the best place for cash flow right now? I want to hear from Steve Cazell. Steve, what are you seeing in the investment space?
You know, you're right, Andrew. There's a lot of people bidding against these flip companies that have been in many communities for the last 4 or 5 years, doing very well. The margins are thinner. There's about 20 to 30 people out there with their iPad trying to figure out how much the flooring's going to cost, what the roof's going to cost, and what everything's going to cost to try to make it pencil out. So when we're talking about penciling it out, we're literally penciling it out. And we got to know what that average resale is. So what's the average resale value of that home? How are you ever going to know if it's a good investment if you don't know what you're trying to sell it for? Well, when we look at the numbers in each county, they're down. Every inventory in every county in California is down compared to our normal healthy inventory in those counties. So if we're talking about the county used to have, 9,000 homes in it on any given time, and now it's got 5,000 homes. Now we're down to 3,700 homes. That really brings things tight. Everything gets tight. There's more buyers than there are homes in pretty much every one of our counties. So when we're talking about penciling it out, it could be all the way down to 5% profit. That's pretty risky if you don't nail that resale value number pretty tight. So if you're trying to make 5% on 500,000, wow, I mean, you're making, not that much money to put up a lot of money and a lot of cash and a lot of work. So that's where that's come to. And for those home buyers who are trying to buy it for their own home, they have to also know what those numbers are. Otherwise, how are you going to be competitive with the people who are bidding on these homes? So I would have to say the numbers have tightened quite a bit. There's still money to be made. Get creative, buy the home for the long term. If you're buying now to live in it, don't speculate, and try to add value to it. Add a bathroom, add a bedroom, buy it and build a granny flat in the back. Get creative with those purchases, and there's still great deals out there. It's still a great time to buy, Andrew.
Well, I can see why investors are feeling squeezed out. I'd like to invite Bob Follis into this conversation. Bob, welcome to the show. What are you seeing as far as the commercial market and the residential market? And are investors sitting on the sidelines? It seems like many of them just can't move forward with these current numbers.
It's an interesting market right now. It's a market that is really highly valued. Price points really aren't supported by the GDP that we have. People are getting emotionally excited now. If you're going to own a home for a long period of time, don't worry about that investment value. You're going to enjoy it and live it, and real estate in the end will tend to go up. In the commercial market, we're seeing the big money is really just started out in the beginning of the pandemic to really try to run out and try to find something to buy. They're just ready to purchase anything. But as they found, many people are not selling. People with that uncertainty were afraid to sell their properties, thinking that someone's not going to come out and look at a commercial property, or will the lease rates change greatly? Just a lot of uncertainty. And that really had a lot of the commercial market just sort of slow down. And we find that the investors have been searching and searching, and I think now they've come to a point of real uncertainty with the election that's coming up. And they're looking only for opportunities that they think for sure could win. They're not out there, so they're sitting and waiting for that opportunity to occur, perhaps next year, I would say. They're also looking for conversions, where I have one hotel group that's really looking at converting office buildings into multifamily. That's a great opportunity. Maybe we can do that. I know they've purchased one building already. I've got some larger off-market hotel deals, iconic properties that would be a great development hotel that just can't get those investors to bite on it because they're uncertain of the future. So Andrew, it's a sort of a confusing time for many investors. I think you're going to see they're sort of holding out a little bit until there's a big change after the election and they get a settlement as to where the economy is going to be headed. At some point, it just seems like it's right now a big bubble ready to burst. It's just a matter of when.
What's it going to take for some of these investors to get off the sidelines and start putting some of this cash into play? Robert, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's entirely motivation that's driving the market. So if you're an investor, you're looking at it simply as an investment, so it has to pencil. And if you're a home buyer, certainly you're using your emotion And that's going to drive your motivation. And recently I represented a high net individual who was looking for a fourth residence in a coastal community. And it was kind of an interesting process because investors tend to be far less emotional. So they think more, with their pencil. And accordingly put a very sound competitive offer on a property that was listed $300,000 more than where his offer came in. And when we weren't able to negotiate it, he said to me, quite frankly, "Robert, I never fall in love with an asset. Let's move along." So I think it kind of shows you again the different motivation with buyers versus investors.
Makes sense. Coming up, the market overview, we take a look at stocks, bonds, and commodities and how they are impacting the real estate market. I'll tell you my thoughts when we return. That's straight ahead.